Dear learners, I am Christina Georgy. I welcome you to my session on the course code BEGC-112 titled British Literature Early 20th Century. In our previous sessions, we have discussed the four major blocks related to this particular course code. The very first block on modernism deals with an introduction to modernism. We also dealt with the aspects of modernism in poetry, novel and drama. Thereafter, we looked at D.H. Lawrence and the British novel as part of block 2. There we focused our attention towards Sons and Lovers, its themes, concerns, analysis and interpretations. Thereafter, we moved on to the stream of consciousness technique and Virginia Woolf as novelist as part of block 3. There we focused our attention towards one particular novel by Woolf titled Mrs. Dalloway. And finally, we looked into the modernist poetry written by seminal modernist writers, poets, such as W.B. Yeats, T.S. Eliot, W.H. Auden and Stephen Spencer. If you haven't attended these sessions, you may look into the playlist created by me titled BEGC-112. So we have been familiar with the syllabus and the blocks of this particular course code. Dear ones, it's equally important to be familiar with your question paper pattern and structure. For that matter, you need to refer to the previous paper. So in this session, we'll focus our attention towards one of the previous question papers on BEGC 112. Dear learners, let me remind you that it is important to be thorough with the course codes. Almost all the codes are similar. Make sure that you know the right course code and the course title. And question pattern for this particular paper of 100 marks and 3 hours is slightly different from the previous papers that you must have written for your TEE of the first 2 years. We have already discussed the question pattern in our course introduction session. Most of you must have been part of that session. Even if not, you may refer to that course introduction as part of the mentioned playlist. So basically, for your examination, there will be short notes, short essays and one long essay along with a few passages. For your better understanding, I'll share screen and discuss the previous question paper. So as you can see, this is the previous question paper of BEGC 112. To be very specific, December 2022 question paper. So it's of great importance to have an understanding of the question pattern and how exactly the questions are structured. So remember, as I always mention, the course code and the course title BEGC 112 British Literature. There is also the subtitle Early 20th Century. This is a 100 marks paper. You have 3 hours time. Dear ones, please understand you have enough and more time. Do not panic. Maybe because you've reached the 3rd year, you'll have better understanding. But very often students are very much tense whether they'll finish off in time. I assure you that you'll finish off in time unless you waste time. Remember that all questions are compulsory. In the sense, you will have 4 questions in total, and within those 4 questions you will have subsections. Okay, let's have a look at question 1. This is question 1. Explain any 4 of the following passages with reference to the context. So as you can see, there are 5 sub questions to question 1. 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4 and 5 respectively. Out of these 5 sub questions of section 1, how many questions should you attend? You need to attend any 4, and each question carries 8 marks. 4 into 8 gives you 32. Remember, these are extracts from those works that are mentioned in your study material. So unless you read your study material, you wouldn't be able to identify from which work these passages are taken from. Trust me, if you identify the particular work, it will be much easier for you to explain this paragraph with respect to the context. You will have to read, and then in the backdrop of the work in which it is taken, you can easily write your answer. Even there, you can write a brief introduction, then the context, and you can also conclude the answer. Remember, you are writing for 8 marks. There is no word limit mentioned. Your answers should run into a minimum of 1.5 pages. It's up to you. My suggestion would be to restrict all your answers of the same type to a specific number of lines. That would give much impression to the examiner who would be evaluating your paper. Very often people ask me, students ask me, how about the page limit? I always tell them it is not the page limit or the number of pages that matters, it is the content that matters. I repeat, it is the content that matters. Unless you identify the right context, even if you write for 2 pages, will you get marks? Of course not. It is not the number of lines or the number of words, but the content and the right context that matters. Okay, so that would be regarding question 1. Moving on to question 2, it deals with short notes. I am very sure that all of you are familiar with this question type. Here you will have 5 questions as seen on screen, and among those 5 you need to write only any 4. Okay, around 100 words. Yeah, for 100 words you can write for about 1 to 1.5 pages, depends on your handwriting. Then again, write the most relevant aspects. Do not waste your time writing short notes for considerable length of time, because you have other essays questions coming up. So plan your answers and manage time effectively. Each question carries 6 marks, and 4 into 6 gives you 24 marks. Now moving on to the next question type, short essay. There you will have 4 short essay questions, among which you will have to choose 2. 12 marks each. 2 into 12 gives you 24 marks in total. So have a look at the question types. There could be a question based on the historical context. There could be questions based on backgrounds. Discuss with suitable examples from those works that you have studied. You would be asked to elaborate on certain aspects. You still can have questions such as write a critical analysis of the poem. See, then themes of poems, all such aspects could come as questions. When we discussed the course introduction, I told you as part of this paper we are studying modernism theory and backdrop. Then blocks 2 and 3 deals with 2 notable modernist novels, namely Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence and Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. 2 novels, and the last block deals with poetry. There you have 4 poems. I would say there is this considerable probability of them asking you all the 4 poems for your DEE. So never skip a poem with respect to this course code. Obviously you'll have to study those 2 novels. They'll certainly ask you either a short essay or a long essay. You can expect a long essay from either of those 2 novels, and probably an essay question from at least one of those poems. With respect to those poems, they could ask you annotation questions as part of question 1. Then there could also be questions in sections 3 and 4. Short essays could also come from poetry. Alright, coming back to our question paper of December 2022, 4th section was to write a long essay. The word limit mentioned was 300 words. With respect to short essay, it was 200 words, half the length of a normal essay. So this would be a normal essay that you had been writing, but you just have to write one essay from those two options. So the total marks would be 20. 20 marks essay question. If you're wondering about how much to write, it depends on your way of putting it. The content matters. Nevertheless, a minimum of 3.5 to 5 pages would be fine. Never be so very concerned with the page limit of the answer booklet. You'll have enough and more pages and time to complete this paper. Okay, so that's all regarding this previous question paper of BEGC 112. Is that clear so far? Any questions?